Good day, folks. Today is July 12th, 2026. This is Wager Detective coming to you from New Jersey. Before we get into this gap between the Cubs and the Reds, be sure to follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and leave comments on all those platforms, guys. I just want you to know I appreciate and love all my present fans out there and future ones. You guys motivate me, drive me, and I'm going to continue to put out the Wager Detective report. And we're going to get into this one right now, July 12th, 2026. And it's the Cubs versus the Reds. The Cubs, per FanDuel, are minus 126. And the Reds are coming back at plus 108. The over-under is set at 9 at minus 110 both ways. Let's get into it. All right, the Cubs, they are 4-3 in their last 7 road day games at the Reds, plus 13 run differential. 3 over and 4 under in those games. The last 7 at Cincinnati, the Cubs are scoring 6.14 runs a game to 4.28 for the Reds. That comes out to a plus 1.85 runs per game average between their wins and losses. They're scoring, and those games are coming out to 10.43 runs per game in the last 7 meetings at Great American Ballpark. Now, if we look at the Cubs, road day games this year, not really something that's a bright spot for them. They are 5-10 in road day games this year, minus 14 run differential, 6 over, 8 under, and 1 push in those games. In road day games this year, they're scoring 3.67 runs a game to 4.6 for their opponents. They scored 5+ 5 times in those 15 games, and their opponents have scored 5+ 6 times. In those road day games this year, the Cubs have scored 2 or less 7 times in those 15 road day games. Their opponents have scored 2 or less only 2 times. So concerning stat there. Now, if we look at the Cubs last 9, they are 5-4 in their last 9, plus 5 run differential, 4 over and 5 under in their last 9 games. Last 9 games, the Cubs are scoring 5.66 runs a game to 5.11 for their opponents. Comes out to 10.77 runs per game average. Last 9 games, the Cubs are scoring 5+ 5 times, and their opponents have only scored 5+ twice. But in their last 9, the Cubs have scored 2 or less 4 times, and their opponents have scored 2 or less only once. So even though they're 5-4 last 9, teams have shown the ability to stifle them in some of them games. It's either hit or miss. Cubs are either going to score 5+, or they're going to score 2 or less in this game. So, it's clear cut and dry there. Now, if we look at the division overall, their record, they are 12-13, but they're minus 23 run differential. They were swept by Milwaukee. They swept Cincinnati already in a 4-game series. And Milwaukee, getting swept by Milwaukee is not necessarily a bad thing, but they did sweep Cincinnati in a 4-game series. Now, 12-13 division overall for the Cubs this year, 10 over, 13 under, and again, minus 23 run differential. In the 25 divisional games this year, they're scoring 3.8 runs per game to 4.72 for their National League Central counterparts. Comes out to 8.52 runs per game average. In 25 divisional games, the Cubs have scored 5+ 11 times, but they've also been shut out 4 of those 25 games. Their opponents in the 25 divisional games have scored 5+ 10 times and have scored 2 or less 6 times, and the Cubs have not shut out any one of those teams in those 25 games against their Central League division. Now, the road division, the Cubs are 6-6. The run differential is even, 4 over and 7 under in those games and 1 push. They are scoring 8.33. The games are coming out to 8.33 runs per game average in their 12 road division games for the Cubs this year, but 6-6, and the run differential is even in those road division games. Now, if we look at the last game of a road series this year, the Cubs are 8-7, 4 over, 9 under, and 2 push. They're plus 9 run differential in this split. And when they lose, they're 3-4 against that spread of losing by more than 1.5. When they do win, they are 5-3, minus 1.5 in those games. Average score for the Cubs in the last game of a road series this year, they're scoring 4.33 runs a game to 3.73 for their opponent. Now, on the mound, we're going to have, as you see there, Matthew Boyd, left-hander. And the Cubs have been doing great behind him. They're 4-1 in his last 5. Boyd did come off of the injured list. He missed a whole month, but they've been winning. They're 4-5 in his last 5 starts. The wins came against Baltimore, San Diego, Mets, and Arizona, and the 1 loss came against San Diego. Last 5 starts for Boyd, The Cubs are scoring 6.6 runs a game. The 5 runs a game for their opponent comes out to 11.6 runs per game average. And in those last 5 starts for Boyd, when Boyd starts, the Cubs are plus 8 run differential. Now, when we look at what he's done in his last 5 starts, Boyd has a 3.52 ERA, a 1.41 WHIP, and 1.05 home runs per 9. But when we isolate it to his last 3 games back coming off of the injury, he's got 15 2/3 innings pitched, and he's got a 1.73 ERA, a 1.35 WHIP, and he's giving up 1.15 home runs per 9. Boyd on the road this year, limited numbers. He's only started on the road 3 times this year. The Cubs are 2-1 in that split, plus 2 run differential, and he's given up 5 earned runs in 14 2/3 for a 3.08 ERA and a 1.58 WHIP. So I think the thing that stands out to me is Boyd. Teams aren't taking advantage of when they get on base from walks or hits, because his WHIP is looking, high in his last 5, 1.35, and then you look at the road starts, 1.58, but Cubs are still outscoring their opponents in those splits. Now, if we look at what Boyd does during the day, the Cubs are 2-1, plus 2 run differential. They're scoring 6 runs a game to 5.33 for their opponents, comes out to 11.33 runs per game. And in those 3 Boyd day starts this year, they've won 8-4, won 6-2, and lost 4-10. In Boyd starts, in 3 starts on a day start, he does have a 5.29 ERA, a 1.03 WHIP, and he's giving up 1.17 home runs per 9. Now against the Reds, something that stands out here from 2018 to 2025, in 5 starts, he is, the Cubs are 0-1, 1-1, 1-2, 1-3. They're 2-3. He did beat them last year, but he did have a 9 ERA. He gave up 4 earned runs and 4 innings pitched, but the Cubs still managed to outslug the Reds 13-6 in that game. So, again, last 5 starts versus the Reds, he does have a 6.48 ERA, which is very, very concerning. He's given up 31 hits and 18 earned runs and 3 home runs in there. So, not a good stat line against the Reds, not a good stat line during day games. But again, the Cubs are winning in his last 5 starts, 4-1 for the Cubs when he starts in his last 5 starts. So you put that all in a blender. Again, 4-3 for the Cubs last 7 road day games at the Reds, plus 13 run differential, and they're scoring 6.14 runs a game in their last 7, averaging 6.14 runs per game in their last 7 in a Great American Ballpark during the day. Now, if we look at the Red side of the cap, we'll get into that. The Reds are 4-6 in their last 10, 8-12 in their last 20. They're 12-11 in 1-run games. And if we look at the Reds in home day games this year, they are 10-8, minus 3 run differential there, 9 over, 8 under, 1 push. They're scoring 4.06 runs a game to 4.22 runs a game for their opponents. In 18 home day games this year, they've scored 5 plus 7 times, and their opponents have scored 5 plus 7 times. The Reds have been shut out twice in 18 home day games this year. So 10-8, minus 3 run differential for the Reds during home day games this year. Now, if we look at the Reds' last 9, they are 4-5, plus 4 run differential. They're scoring 3.78 runs per game. So I think the thing that stands out, the Reds are scoring 3.78 runs per game in their last 9, whereas the Cubs are scoring 5.66. But I think the thing that stands out too is the Cubs are giving up 5.11 runs a game in their last 9, and the Reds are only giving up 3.33. So, contrasting I think this game is going to come down to, as we get further into this cap, is what the Reds are going to be able to do against any mistakes and all mistakes that Boyd may make with the whip and giving up, at least a home run a game in a lot of the splits we looked at. Now, if we look, this is a very concerning stat right here. The Reds are 6-21 against their divisional opponents this year, minus 58 run differential. So we said with the Cubs, they're 12-13, minus 23 run differential, and we look at the Reds, they're 6-21 against their division, minus 58 run differential. They're scoring 3.56 run a game to 5.70 for their opponent. So that comes out to a minus 2.14 runs per game average between their wins and losses, and the average score of their divisional games in those 27 games is 9.26. So both these teams are giving up runs to their divisional opponents. Like we said, the Cubs are giving up 4.72 runs per game in 25 divisional games, and the Reds are giving up 5.70 runs a game in 27 divisional games. Now, when we isolate it to the Reds at home against the division, they are 3-7, and they're only scoring 2.9 runs a game to 4.5 for their opponents. So when we said the Cubs are scoring 4.16 in road division games, they're giving up 4.16 as well. When we look at the Reds, they're only scoring 2.9 runs per game at home versus the division in 10 road divisional games, but they're giving up 4.5. So now if we get into the divisional split for the Reds, they are last game of a home series. They are 6-9, -6 run differential. They're scoring 4.06 runs a game to 4.46 for their opponents in the last game of a home series. When we look at who's going to be on the mound for the Reds, it's going to be Andrew Abbott. And we look at Andrew Abbott, in the last 5 starts, the Reds are 2-3, +3 run differential. They're scoring 4.4 runs a game to 3.8 for their opponents. Comes out to 8.2 runs per game average. Last 5 starts for Abbott, he does have a 3.42 ERA, a 1.41 WHIP, and he is giving up a concerning 2.05 home runs per 9 in his last 5 starts. So I think we can expect a home run or 2. I'm expecting at least 2 home runs. We look at the screen there, it does say 7 miles per hour left to right. 81 degree day. Just seems like a run-inducing day is when we look at this. Now, when we look at the year-long stats for the Reds when Abbott's on the mound, they are 10-9, and Abbott has a respectable 3.92 ERA, 1.41 WHIP, but he's given up 16 home runs this year, which comes out to 1.43 home runs per 9. So very concerning. They do score for him when they are at home, but again, 10-9 record, +4 run differential when Abbott starts at home this year. The Reds again 10-9, and Abbott again respectable 3.92 ERA, but the WHIP 1.41 WHIP is very, very concerning for the Reds here, because the Cubs can take advantage of problems and any mistakes, and I think the Reds can too. They have the potential. I love Sal Stewart. As you see, he's going to be bat number 2 of the day. You look at the other side, the Cubs got one of the best offenses in baseball. So let's get back to the cap. The Cubs are 4-5 at home this year when Abbott starts, -7 run differential. They're scoring 4.11 runs a game to 4.89 for their opponents. And in 47 2/3 innings pitched at home this year, he does have a 4.72 ERA, a 1.39 WHIP, and once again, he's giving up 1.32 home runs per 9. Has given up 7 home runs at home this year in 47 2/3. So if you get somebody on base that, maybe you get a man on first and second, or, we could see some crooked innings here that can get us to that 9 at the very least. Let's see what Abbott's done during the day. In day games this year, the Abbott pitches, the Reds are 5-4, +7 run differential. They're scoring 5.22 runs a game to 4.44 for their opponents. Comes out to 9.66 runs per game average when Abbott starts during the day this year. In 46 2/3 innings pitched during the day this year, he does have a 3.67 ERA, a 1.37 WHIP, and again 1.16 home runs per 9. Has given up 6 home runs in 46 2/3 innings in 9 day games this year. When we look at what Abbott has done against the Cubs in his career, the Reds are 3-2, +2 run differential. They're scoring 3.2 runs a game to 2.8. And against the Reds in his career, his last 5 games versus the Cubs, he does have a 1.52 ERA, a 1.14 WHIP, and a 0.91 home runs per 9. So, you look at all these stats that stand out, and it's hard to go against the Cubs when you look at a lot of these, because I just don't trust the team. I mean, I really do feel bad for a player like Sal Stewart and Elliot De La Cruz. I just believe they're just with an organization that I don't know whether they don't try. I do believe, and I hope this word gets out, I do believe that the coach should be fired. Tito Francona should be fired. He should have been fired a long time ago. And ironically enough, I was the one that said that they should hire him. And I put it into the universe, and then like 2 weeks later, back when he was hired, which was quite amazing. But now I'm looking at them, and I just don't think he's got the fire to him. And I think he's just tainting his career from all the good years he had in Cleveland. I don't respect him at this point as a manager, because I do believe this team has talent, and I can only look towards one thing, and that's managerial. So if you're listening to this to Tito Francona, please understand, man, I lost major respect for you as a manager. I expected a lot more out of this team. So when we get back to the cap, I do believe that there will be runs scored in this game. I think the thing that's concerning is Abbott's career versus the Cubs. He does seem to be able to corral them. He does have a 1.52 ERA against them in 29 2/3. But if you look at all the other metrics, I think this could be a day where the Cubs could break through. Like I said, they're scoring 5.66 runs per game in their last 5, and they give up runs. And I think, the Reds have only scored 3.78 runs per game in their last 9 games, and they're only giving up 3.33. But I think the Cubs, man, everything that I'm looking at here, you'd be hard-pressed for me to say I would want to take the Reds here. I mean, even with divisional games overall, the Cubs are 12-13. The Reds are 6-21 versus the division, minus 58 run differential. I mean, I'm not saying the run differential of minus 23 for the Cubs in 25 divisional games is great, but it's still twice as good, more than twice as good as what the Reds are doing. I just think in this game, for Wager Detective, I think both teams are going to want to go into the All-Star break, because this is the last game until they play again, resume action next Friday or next Thursday for some teams. But I think both these teams, they're going to be looking to, they can coast, or they can come out and put on a show. And all the numbers I'm looking at, I think we could get to that 9, especially early. We could have a first inning where we have 3-4 runs very easily. And then throughout the rest of the game, you get a couple crooked innings from one team, and you're right there on that 9. So at the very least, so for Wager Detective, the call here, I'm just not a Reds believer, and they'll come out today and they'll try to prove me wrong, because even the 6-21, when do you get better? When does it get better for them? And it's not like the Cubs are doing that much better. They're 12-13 in road division. They're 12-13 in divisional games, and they're only scoring 3.8 runs a game. And then we look at these guys. The Reds are scoring 3.56 in divisional games, but both these teams give up runs too against their divisional opponents. So I think if you're looking at it, I think you look at the game that Abbott pitched against the Cubs earlier this year. He did lose 2-3 at Chicago. I think this game, they see him a second time around. I think there's going to be runs scored for both these teams. And like we said, Abbott versus the Reds. I mean, what's his name? Boyd versus the Reds does have a 6.48 ERA. He saw them last year. Even though the Cubs won 13-6 at Great American Ballpark, he did give up 4 innings. He did give up 4 earned runs in 4 innings pitched. So the Reds seem to hit him well, and I think both these teams are going to come out and score. I wouldn't be surprised if both teams get to that 5+ today. 5+ runs, and we have a shootout. But I think at the very least, one of these teams will help get this to at least 9. So that's the call here. Wager Detective calling over 9. In this Reds-Cubs game, July 12, 2026. And if I had to lean aside through all the metrics I'm looking at, I mean, you'd be hard-pressed for me to say that I would want to take anything but the Cubs. And then that's when it comes back to bite you. But I think, all things considered, I think, the line is a little concerning. And listen, when during day games, when you look at some of these games, I mean, Abbott, they hit for him, and I expect both these teams to hit. So again, for me, the call is going to be over 9 in this game. And if I had to lean one way or the other, I just don't trust the Reds. I would lean the Cubs as my secondary half-unit play, but over 9 is the major call here for Wager Detective. Follow Wager Detective on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Set alerts on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and always remember, Wager Detective loves all fans. I'll talk to you soon.